Awesome. Thanks for everyone coming out tonight. We also get to hear from Seth. We'll probably have people jumping in and out. I just wanted to jump on real quick and say that if for any reason this cuts off, we run out of time, we can just jump right back onto the same link. I'll keep it going. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. And if we have time for them at the end, we can go over them.
And do you want me to just go ahead and get started? You want me to give people a couple minutes before I get rolling here?
Um, Maybe let's give them about 2 minutes and then you can jump right in. We got a couple people saying they're coming, but
Got it. Sounds good.
whatever works. Now look at this. So I put you in charge. So if you need, you should be able to share your screen and everything.
Okay, I believe you guys should be seeing my screen now, Callie. Do you think we're good to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Perfect. Okay. So first off, welcome everyone. Excited that everyone could show up and kind of be online for this. Like we said, my name is Seth Hughes. I'm the head coach at Carthage College. And today I'm going to be doing a little presentation on 2 meter play, kind of offensive and defensive side, and then coaching your peers, right? So a little combo package. Um, Before we get too far into this, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on myself, right? I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois. I've been here since I was, a little kid, moved away for a couple years, but ultimately I'm back there now. I grew up playing at the Chicago Park District. I joined their water polo club when I was about 12 years old. I went to Whitney Young High School, had a pretty fun high school career there, kind of really just, did the typical high school water polo thing, right? Started playing when I was pretty young, played through all 4 years of high school and had some talent, but ultimately didn't end up playing in college. I ended up, or playing varsity in college, I should clarify that. I ended up playing club at the University of Utah. Had a pretty successful career while I was there. Was able to get our club team to national championships a couple times. Ended up coming away with a couple national player of the years and national tournament MVPs. And yeah, just had a really good experience in my club water polo journey. One of the reasons that I'm really excited to come back and kind of talk to you guys about kind of my club experience. While I was at the University of Utah, I was lucky enough to kind of get in contact with Kearns Water Polo, which is a major club out there. And I actually started working with them when I was in college, kind of putting myself through school. It was one of those side jobs. Eventually, I ended up taking over as the head coach of the program after about 6 months there, and really just fell in love with everything about coaching, to be honest. I really sunk my claws and it really sunk its claws in me. And I knew that I was kind of in for the long count. Um, while I was at Kearns Water Polo there, I also started working with the Olympic Development Program, which is a program within USA Water Polo that kind of like works to kind of like raise the next batch of Olympians. And so working with the the younger athletes and kind of working on developing them and giving them all the tools they'll need when they get to those higher levels. And was in Utah in general, working with Kearns Water Polo and Olympic Development Program for about 7 years. And so had a pretty good stint while I was over there, was able to win a couple state championships and make some competitive runs. Ultimately, though, I left there in the summer of 2022 and went to the University of Michigan. I got an assistant coach while I was there, spent 1 year at the University of Michigan, and then I recently, just over a year ago now, took over as the head coach of Carthage College, right? And so I run the women's team there, and I'm having a great time doing it. I'm really excited to kind of just keep going with my coaching flow that I've kind of set up. But anyway, enough about me, right? The real reason we wanted to get into this is to kind of go over 2 meter play and really the water polo part of this. So 2 meter play, when we talk about that, right, the big thing that we're looking at here is offensive and defensive center, right? And here on this first screen, we have two of the best players ever to do it, right, in their games and their positions. On the left here, we have Ben Halleck, who is probably the best center in the world right now, just absolutely tore it up, came back winning a bronze medal with the U.S. And so amazing athlete, really fun to watch him doing his thing. And then on the right, we have Melissa Seidemann, who is another just amazing athlete, played for the U.S. National team for many years, won a couple gold medals with the women's team there, and honestly is one of the best center and center defender combos that I've ever seen. And honestly, if you ask most coaches in the U.S., I'm guessing they'll probably say the same. She's absolutely an amazing player and definitely dominant in the 2 meter position. So from here, right, we're really starting to get into the 2 meter position itself, right? And so as we talk about 2 meter, again, as we said before, we're talking about offensive and defensive center. I'll refer to it mostly as center and then center defender. Now, the thing that I love about 2 meters in general is that it really is kind of this like all out battle where you're going at it. I've heard it called the battle of the bigs times before, right? And it really is that. It's a dangerous area of the pool, right? Where you come in, you're going to get grabbed and held and, all of this, that, and the other. But at the same time, I really love it because I feel like it's almost like an art or a dance, right? It's one of those things where, hey, you know what? I'm trying to figure out what my partner is doing, right? I'm trying to figure out where they're trying to move, what spaces they're trying to fill. And I'm trying to counter those moves or think ahead so that I can put myself in a position to kind of like really be able to anticipate and then take advantage of the situation that I find myself in. And so because of that, I just really enjoy everything about the 2 meter play in general, right? It's something that I couldn't get enough of when I was a player. I was a strong center myself. And so because of that, I usually end up hating center defenders, but that's neither here nor there. As we move forward, guys, I really wanted to start off, and we're going to take this in kind of like two different ways, right? So we'll start off with center defense and kind of talk about everything there and then move into center offense. As we kind of like progress through, I want to spend just a little bit of time tactically breaking down each one, what are each position trying to do, and then we'll kind of go into the technical and then end with some tips on that position that I kind of came up with that I really like to emphasize when I'm coaching. So from here, as we kind of chug along, I wanted to jump into center defense, right? And so this is one of my absolute favorite positions to talk about because as you can see in this first bullet point, for me, the center defender really is the team MVP. They do so much for our team in general, no matter what job you are really asking of them, because ultimately they're tasked with stopping the biggest offensive threat in the pool, the person that's closest to the goal. They're supposed to be able to handle that person who always has the highest percentage of scoring, right? That scoring opportunity. At the same time, they're also responsible for calling back all of their defenses, right? Helping everyone else get on the same page. They're really responsible for communicating with their goalie and making sure that those two are working in tandem. And then on top of this, they're also going to be like this captain of the defense. And so because of that, they really need to be on the same page as the coach and as the rest of the team in order to make everything work really smoothly, right? One other thing about the center defender is that they really do need to be like an S tier communicator, right? They really need to be like top of the line in that communication and ability to say things to their teammates, right? And go back and forth and ultimately get things done. That particular area is what made Melissa Seidemann one of the best in her game, right? As she was like really developing. Now, one of the major things I wanted to focus on when we're talking about center defender is, hey, how do we play this? What are my tactics? What am I trying to do, right? And there are two major ways that we can talk about playing center defense. The first one is going to be fronting, right? Where we try to stay in between the center and the ball, and really it's more of a preventative action. I'm really trying to stop the ball from coming into my center, interfere with any passes that might come around me and go from there. Conversely, right, the other thing that I could do is just straight play behind, behind, right? And focus more so on pushing the center out of position, right? And trying to limit the quality shots they are able to take. Now, here throughout these, I try to include a couple different clips for us just to make sure that we're able to get a good like idea of exactly what we're looking for here. And this clip is from back in 2023. 2023. It's from the NC2A Championship, right? Now, I want us looking here in the middle of the pool. I know the screen is a little bit small, okay, but we definitely see some battling going on in center, right? Lots of spinning, right? Everyone's kind of moving around everywhere. And I want to draw attention to the center defender in this position, right? This person is really doing a lot of different things. If we roll back and restart the tape, actually, we can see that the center defender, rewind for a second, actually starts off fronted here, right? And so she's fronting for a little bit, right? Doing a good job taking away position. She ends up getting behind. She jumps all the way behind and really starts to get into more of a zone, all while she's wrestling with the center and communicating and really doing the whole 9 yards. That results in a turnover and an offensive opportunity for her team, right? Which is really exciting and something the defender in most positions should really be looking for. Okay. Now, from here, right, I really want to dive into some of the technical skills that are going to be involved in our center, right? And so lots of videos here to give us an idea of what we're talking about. Okay. So let's come on back and we'll watch this video first. So again, here we are watching the center position, right? And here we're talking about fronting to start with. And so notice right now the center defender is in between the ball and the center, right? Doing a really good job of maintaining her position as she swims around the center, really trying to do her best to stay in between that center and the ball. The one thing I really want us to pay attention to are where her hips are located. Notice her hips start off pointed towards this, we call it the force spot, right? Pointed directly over there, making sure that her hips are in a good spot. And then as that ball moves, you can see a lot of movement for the center defender trying to bring her hips around to that next spot. And that's really what the front base position is going to be about when we're in center. We want one hand on that offensive center, right? The other hand in the passing lane, and then our hips nice and high so that no one is able to grab or pull our hips or really get into our bodies as we go. The next skill we're going to be looking at is a one-arm swim around, okay? And this is also going to be another fronting technique, okay? So here, ball is starting down in this deep corner, right? And we see this center defender taking these long kind of breaststrokes, almost like swimming with one arm around the center. We'll show that one more time. Again, center defender starts behind. We get one big one-arm swim around there, another one right there. Each of those movements, right, start with an arm stroke, include a big breaststroke kick. And again, you'll notice, right, I'll play this one more time for us, that we're seeing a lot of hip movement. Or hips start all the way behind the center. They jump up facing the one, move even higher facing the two, and they end almost facing directly up towards the three, right? And that one arm swim around really does a great job of allowing us to move our body with our hips and then reset those hips into place as you kind of get into the position you're looking for. Now, the next skill I kind of wanted to touch on in addition to this is the two arm swim around, right? And this is going to be a really similar skill, right? The big difference is instead of only using one arm to move around our defense, this defender is going to use two arms, and this person is doing a lot mixture of spinning and stopping and reverse spinning, kind of spinning back in the opposite direction, and ultimately ends up drawing the offensive there. We'll watch that one more time. Okay, so again, here we can see good base position to start with. Center is maybe getting a little bit grabby, and then the defender hops around, right? Lots of spinning, takes strokes with two arms. And by doing that, you can really see that the defender is showing, hey, I'm not grabbing, I'm not pulling, I'm not holding anyone. I'm using my arms to move and is able to avoid the exclusion there. Okay. One last skill that I wanted to go over regarding technical skills for our defenders, right? And this is the zone-based position. So as we all know, right, we start off in a press, we're fronting, we're working hard, right, trying to stay in between our offensive player and the ball, and then at some point we'll lose position. Now, when we lose position, it's super important to make sure that we're in a position that is not giving up anything that is super strong to the offense. So again, I want to point out the center defender here. You'll notice in this zone base position, right? Center defender one has plenty of space between her and the offense, right? She's not giving her chest, right, or any access to her body. Instead, she's staying pretty far away, almost like an arm's length away, really pushing that center away from her. Okay. As that ball gets entered, you notice that the center defender is up on her legs, right? Ready to defend a shot if anything comes, and then ends up working to the other side. Really great center defending there, right? So those are four quick skills that we can use in our center defense as we're kind of going about this and really use it in a mix. I think it's really important to mix up these skills as we're kind of working with them. And so we might start in a really good base position, right? When we are fronting, we might add in a mixture of one arm and two arm swim arounds for a couple minutes, couple seconds, excuse me, while we're maintaining our front. And then eventually center ends up getting in front of us. We have to jump behind and then shift into more of our zone base position from there, right? And so that's most of the technical skills that we'll need in that position. Last thing that I really wanted to touch on for our center defenders before moving on were just some basic tips, right? Now, this first one, swimming to avoid contact, right? This is a huge one for center defense, and it's going to be a theme that I kind of repeatedly come back to when I start talking about centers, right? On the In the game of water polo, let me start that over. In the game of water polo, centers want contact. Offense wants contact because 9 times out of 10, that contact is going to result in a call for the offense, right? It's going to, I'm sorry, you'll excuse my dog there. It's going to result in, some type of an exclusion, some type of penalty foul, maybe an ordinary foul if there is a lot of contact and the ref can't decide who started it. On the opposite side of that coin, if a defender is caught in that position, 9 times out of 10, that defender is getting ejected, right? So it's super important for defense to avoid all of the contact while offense kind of seeks that out. Meanwhile, going back to our first point, right, we really want to emphasizing swimming to avoid that contact when we are playing in our defender. So using those one arm swim rounds, those two arm swim rounds to kind of maintain our advantage as we get around people. Second kind of defender tip that we wanted to hit was to rely on your teammates. Okay. And this kind of relates to the fact that in order to effectively deny the ball into a center, right? If I want to front and stop the ball from coming into my person, I'm going to have to rely on my teammates who are defending the people that are on the ball and the people that are off the ball to buy me a little bit more time as I move around the center defender, right? I'm not going to be able to just move from one spot to the next, especially if the ball, let's say, swings from one side of the pool to the other. I'm not going to be able to move in the time that they need to move in order to prevent that ball from coming in. And so in order to actually do what I need to do in this position, I need to rely on my teammates to slow down the ball for me and buy me a little bit more time as I move around. Third tip, know when to get behind, right? And this is super key to avoiding goals being scored on you because one of the most detrimental things we can do as a center defender is front when we're a little bit too high, allow the ball to come in with inside water, and then we're caught on the center's back with nothing between them and the goal but open water, right? So knowing when to jump behind, when to get into that zone-based position, super, super important for our center defenders, okay? This is a big one. Number 4, hips are everything, right? The hips are literally how we protect ourselves in water polo. Anytime that the offense is able to gain access to our hips, we're cooked, right? For lack of a better term. We have nothing that we can really do to try to get out of that situation other than try to recover, right? Try to distance ourselves and get our hips back up. And so because of that, as a center defender, hips need to be up constantly. We need to be pushing those hips away from the defense or away from the center offense. And ultimately, we're looking to protect our hips as much as possible. Okay. Center defender tip number 5, get them out of your body. And this is one of the biggest pet peeves that I have, especially on my college team, is when girls or guys allow the centers to get all the way into their chest when they're setting, kind of giving them that shell for the big step out that the center is looking for, right? I think that's one of the worst things that you can do as a center defender is giving them kind of a platform to push off against when they're looking to create a shot, right? Instead, I really teach, hey, let's get the offense out of my body, get them away from your suit. That way they're not able to grab a suit, grab a hip, grab a leg, anything like that. And it's a lot more safer for us. We're able to interfere with shots and everything else a little bit better. Okay. Last thing, and this one I want to be really, really careful about not overemphasizing. Sometimes exclusions are a good thing. Key emphasis on the word sometimes, right? I think that I was kind of nervous about saying this because it can go the wrong way really, really quickly. But ultimately, it's important to understand that exclusions are there for us to take if it saves our team, the other team, from scoring a goal, right? If that is the choice I have to make between, hey, this team is either going to score or I take an exclusion, the exclusion is usually the right call there, right? And so as long as you are thinking it through and not just taking exclusions like candy, right? You can really start to pace out when those exclusions come and use them at at times that will really affect your team as you start to go on, right? Now, those are the major points on our center defense, right? From here, I want to start moving into center offense, right? And so we have a short little clip, kind of just to get us into the mood of center offense, right? We'll play that clip for us. And here we have a beautiful move, really nice entry, right? And then a little nifty finish with the lob there. Now, remember, our 2 meter, okay, normally is going to be the focal point of our offense, right? Everything that we do is going to be centered around this player because they are in the middle of the pool. In order for us to get any really high quality looks, that person is either going to have to get the ball or clear out and allow someone else to kind of fill that space via a drive or a post up or whatever that is, right? And so definitely a huge person on the offensive presence of the pool, okay? One other thing that we usually like to note as we're going about our centers is, hey, we really want you guys to focus on holding a position and allowing the ball to work to you. Okay, as we are at center, right? A lot of times centers will try to work towards the ball, and I think that results more often than not in uncoordinated offenses, right? And me holding a position that the ball is no longer at. And so personally, I think it's a lot better if the offense locks up, is a lot more patient, allows the play to come to them, and then at the right moment looks to explode into action, right? Again, lots of different ways that we can approach the center position, right? A lot of it kind of depends on your strengths and what type of center you exactly want to be. Okay. From here, wanted to jump into the technical skills that are going to be involved in center, right? And for these, we have a decent amount of them. So the first skill that we're going to look at is holding position, right? And this is kind of like a center's bread and butter, right? This is going to involve a lot of different skills. And ultimately, what I'm trying to do here is lock up with my defense, right? Grab on, make sure I have the contact that we were talking about earlier, and stop them from filling a certain piece of water that I am trying to hold on to. Okay. As we watch this clip, we'll watch the offensive center hold a couple different positions. Currently, he's holding towards this one spot, right, with his hips pointed over here. As the play goes on, that defender jumps around him a little bit, his hips shift, right? And now he's holding kind of this little inside water zone that allows this play to just work out perfectly, right? That ball comes down the line into 5 and then directly into the center because of how well that center is holding position. Now, when you guys are holding position, it is so important that their legs are turned on, meaning that your legs are driving into the defense as you are going. And we can notice this happening with the offense and the defense the entire time. We look at his legs, we look at the rate at which they're working, and you can tell, really driving into the defense there to hold the water that he's working so hard to create. And that is ultimately what results in this goal, because this center created, 3 or 4 meters of space to allow room for everyone else to pass him the ball. So this holding position skill going to be super important no matter what level of the game you are playing at. Next up, okay, we have the turn, spin, and seal, right? This is actually going to be a really similar play, okay? But the turn, spin, and seal is going to be how we go from a locked position, a locked up position, kind of like we saw the guy in the previous clip kind of locked and waiting, to turning with our face towards the ball and our back towards the basket. Now, we see it a little bit earlier here in this clip. Okay, we see originally offense has their back to the basket. They turn, lock up, and then we get this turn, spin, and seal move that we are talking about. Now, some particulars about the turn, spin, and seal, right? One thing, as you are locked up and looking to start your turn, spin, and seal move, we really want to focus on getting that hand sent all the way into the armpit, right? We're not stopping short. You're not getting your elbow only into the armpit, but you're shooting that shoulder all the way through. At the end of the movement, you'll notice that the offense does a really big breaststroke kick back. That is that last seal movement after the turn and the spin happen that kind of get that final push back on the center defense and kind of allows that center to have the position they're working for. Okay, so that's the turn, spin, and seal move that we're going to be referencing. Next up, we have our center base position, right? And this is one of my favorite things to teach. This is also a great video to demonstrate this. Okay. But we'll notice, right, in the center base position, the center is working really, really hard. Arms are moving really fast. Legs are working at a really high rate of work, right? And this is ultimately what we're looking for in the center base position, right? A couple specific things that we'll notice while just watching this video. Number one, the chin is tucked nice and low, right? That's to avoid the head coming back and creating an offensive or anything like that. Two, notice that his hips are stacked almost directly underneath his shoulders, right? We're not leaning too far back or leaning too far forward where our butt is sticking out, but they're almost one on top of another as they're going through that motion, right? Which helps him stay balanced as he's moving through that backing up motion. Third thing that I want to point out is a little bit on his spine, right? In our team, we call this holding a C spine shape, right? And so you're almost like trying to curve your back and hunch your shoulders a little bit. And the reason for that, again, it prevents the head coming back to call an offensive on our step out move. But also, that C spine allows me to make contact with the middle of my back instead of any higher up parts on my head or shoulders that might be called an offensive or might result in me, doing something that might be a little bit over the level of play that's expected at that time. Okay. So that is the center base position. The next skill that we want to hit is called the squirm, right? And this is one of my another favorite skill to teach. And we'll notice here this center is actually doing it constantly. Now, we're going to use the squirm when the center defender maybe jumps around to a side after we are already in center base position. So we'll notice here, right, the center defender jumps to the right side of the center, that the center kind of like squirms over to the side, uses a little breaststroke kick to stay in front. There we have a second squirm that comes in before that ball is entered. Both of those really good moves that we can use to kind of stay in front of our defense as they work to get around us. Okay. And then the last skill that I really wanted to hit here is a spin to reseal, right? This is a skill that we can use a lot of times if the defense kind of gets a little bit more distance away from us. Looks like I got about 10 minutes left. I've gotta hurry this up a little bit. Um, Again, this is a skill that we want to use if the defense is able to get us out of their body a little bit, because remember, as centers, we want that contact. We want to get into their body and to be able to create all of this contact as I can. And so as that third defender kind of gets away from us, sometimes the center can use their spin to reseal and get a lot closer to that defense. And we can notice this center do it a couple different times. There was one there. We get another spin to reseal there, and they're really just taking that outside arm, sending it into the defense, and knocking them back as they go from there. Okay. Next up, I wanted to really quickly just go through a couple of our different shots that we can take out of center. Okay, I want to make sure that I give you guys a little bit of time if anyone has any questions. So we'll kind of brush through these. First shot we're looking at is a sweep shot, right? And so this one is a quick shot. Notice how quickly that ball gets out of the center's hands, right? It's on the water for about a quarter of a second right before it's in the net, it looks like. Okay, watch that one more time. Again, that ball is entered on the water for a second out of that man's hand before the goalie even really has a chance to notice anything happen. Next up, another quick shot that I want us to look at is the backhand, right? And so this one comes in, instead of going across our body here, we're just going to send that ball behind us. Again, this is one really big thing for me. The backhand is a quick shot. I think it's often used as a power shot or trying to just like rip it through the goalie. Kind of looks like it's used that way a little bit here. But really want to focus on making sure it's getting out of our hands quickly and we're beating the goalie based on speed there. Next up, the step out, right? This is our most like basic center move, right? Just really getting up on your legs, powering that ball almost through the goalie as you're taking that shot. Kind of similar to that, we have a layout. Okay, and this one is the same thing, going to a little bit of a weaker side, right? Stepping out to our right side instead of to our left, which for righties is going to be a little bit harder. And this shot is one of my personal favorites, right? It really does a great job of making it a little bit trickier for both the center defense and the goalie to get to you, because you are creating a new angle with how much you are laying on your side to create that new shot. And then the last shot that I really wanted to talk about is our turns, right? And this particular clip is going to be of a weak side turn, right? So kind of turning towards your right side if you are a lefty, or if you are a righty, excuse me. And here we'll see this center receive the ball, right? And then we get this huge turn to the outside and then the quick, easy finish for them, right? And so those turns are definitely one of the things that we can start to develop as we're improving our step out, improving our layouts, improving our sweeps and our backhands. Okay. Last things for center, right? Just a couple tips. Number one, want to stay locked up for as long as possible, right? The longer that we spend with our back to the basket, the easier it's going to be for our center defenders to move around us. Number two, look for contact. We already talked a ton about that, so I'm going to skip over that one. Number three, drive the legs, right? Cannot overstate how important this is, right? You legs need to be going if we're going to be able to hold position and keep anyone behind us. Number four, be purposeful with your hip positioning, right? This is talking about where your hips are pointed, especially as we're holding position, right? Making sure that they're pointed at a spot instead of just back towards the goal can make a world of a difference. Number five, try to keep the center defender out of position, right? And this we do a lot by knocking the center defense off, by quick pulls, by trying to maybe spin to reseal to knock that center defense out of position so that when we are trying to take our shot, they aren't able to interfere. And then last one, find ways to use your strengths, right? If you have a really good backhand, try to put yourself in positions where you can use your backhand a little bit more. If you have a really strong turn, right? Make that your bread and butter. But again, you need to find ways to make sure that is something that pops up in your game on a regular basis. Okay. Last couple things, right? Coaching your peers, right? Just want to touch a couple things on this. I know that this is usually one of the hardest parts about being a club athlete because you're dealing with so many different people from so many different walks of life. You have people who are, just coming off a varsity stint, possibly. You have people who are coming back and, never played water polo. You have people who played JV water polo, varsity water polo in high school. I mean, you literally have everyone, and everyone kind of has a different agenda as we're looking to get through it, right? So I really think as a first step, and coaching your peers, you got to figure out your group's goals, right? You have to figure out, hey, are we trying to go to nationals? Is that our end all be all? Or are we trying to, have fun and kind of like have it be more of a social environment, and making sure that your team is on one page there? Super, super huge and goes a long way to prevent any headaches in the future, right? Second tip that I have, come with some sort of a practice plan, right? Can be, a post-it note that says 6 on 5 on it, can be as detailed as, a whole list of 16 different drills, right? Come with something, right? It's going to make your practice so much easier. It's definitely okay to, shift away from it, to be flexible on it, to change it however you want. But I highly suggest coming there with at least a game plan of what you want to work on in hand. Number three, be mindful of what each individual is looking for. Okay, this is a big one in my club career because again, the person who might have just missed out on a varsity team versus the person that is trying this casually, very different goals in mind, right? And if you try to treat those two athletes the same way, it's going to be the worst thing in the world for just about everyone involved, right? And so being mindful of what each person is looking for, being mindful of what their relationship is with water polo is super important as you're looking to coach your peers so that you don't end up just force feeding water polo down their throats, right? The last thing that I can really say, and this is, I think, the biggest piece of advice that I can give, passion is contagious, right? Like it literally feeds from one person into another, into another. That's why I've chosen the career path that I have. I love coaching because I love being able to spread my love for water polo, right? Ultimately, I love being able to get that and see other people get as excited about water polo as I do. And so if you guys have passion, you're willing to let that show and kind of put your heart on your sleeve a little bit and just show how crazy about water polo you are, it's going to have positive impacts to those that are around you. Now, that's everything that I had, right? That's the end of my presentation. If we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those now. Looks like we have one in the chat too. Okay, so Natalia wrote, when teaching some of these new skills, what's the best way you found to start? Are you showing your players these videos as well? Having someone on your team demo, drawing out what you want to see? Yeah, this is a great question, Natalie. And I think the answer is, all of the above, right? When coaching, you have to realize everyone has such different learning styles, right? That really only doing things in one way isn't going to hit for like 80% of people. And so personally, I try to give athletes, 4, 5, 6 different ways to think about something. I'll show the video first, and then we'll hop in the water and have a demo, and then maybe an on land like walkthrough of what the skills look like, and then maybe we hop in and you're practicing it on a partner, right? And really getting those repetition kind of like opportunities in while also still hammering in like, hey, these are the cues that I'm looking for. These are the particular points that I really want us to focus on. Um, but yeah, I love that. Really great question. Um, any others? Any others in the group that have any questions out there?
If your team doesn't have a center, what kind of skills do you look for from other players to like maybe pull over from for a center defender?
Yeah, yeah, I would love this. Number one, I think is definitely aggression, right? Finding someone who's not afraid to get into the middle of the pool, to be a little bit more physical, right? To wrestle a little bit is definitely a great place to start with your center. Strong legs is definitely a requirement, as we kind of covered in the presentation, but that might be the case for all of water polo. And so ultimately, I think that an affinity for the position, right, and then not being afraid to wrestle and kind of get into it with someone are the two most important things. Awesome. Well, if there are no other questions, I guess we'll wrap it up.
So,
Okay.
thanks so much, Seth.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. I'm glad that we could have a chance to connect with everyone, kind of spread the wealth a little bit. And yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to creating great stuff with your clubs. So,
Have a great night.
and have a good one, guys.